Hello and welcome to another video on Gran Turismo Sport. We've got two races for you today from the FIA Exhibition Series Season 2. The first being the Nations Cup race from Circuit de Barcelona, and it's a Group 3 race with fairly high tyre wear, a 13 lap race with the medium tyres required, and you can do either a one stop or a two stop really. So if you're near the front of the grid, starting on the soft tyres, pitting lap 5 or 6, going on to the soft tyres again, and then lap 10 or 11 pitting for the medium tyres that are required. Or you can do a one stop strategy, pitting on either lap 6 or 7 on the soft tyres and going on to the medium. So we have qualified here in 7th place, which is not really too bad, to be honest. This is a combination that I thought would suit me quite well, but for some reason I haven't been able to get the hang of this car as well as I would have liked. I normally prefer driving the Porsche here, but it wasn't particularly great at the start of the race and didn't really have the pace I was hoping it would have. So we're in the Lexus, which is the most common choice for this one, and it's quite a good car. It's not too bad on the tyre wear. You just see Kira K there in 13th place, another YouTuber, as well as Basic Ollie. You can check out Basic Ollie's channel for his perspective on this race, in which he experienced some of the worst dirty driving I've ever seen on this game, from this driver here, number of P18, Act Bad. Very bad behaviour in that race, or in Ollie's race. And you can check that out on his channel. Right, so on to our race then. It is a standing start, so we need to make sure that we put the traction control onto setting 1 for the best getaway. So as the lights go out, we see the red arrows flying overhead with the colours of Spain, or the Spanish flag I should say. We've got a decent start, so having a quick look behind, there's a bit of a gap opened up. We're not going to be under too much pressure going down into turn 1, so just the start we would have liked. Not made any places up, but we are more than happy with how it's gone, making sure that we get through the first couple of turns without too much drama, keeping it up to the inside and just getting around the Audi R8 there. And as we get into the braking zone for the long right hander, we get a tap from behind, kind of the pinball like effect of a few cars running into the back of each other there, and then we get another little tap from behind from Kira K, but luckily we kind of benefit from it actually. We now have a bit of a gap behind us and we're very close up to the cars ahead. So heading up the hill then, the fast right hander just before we get to the penalty serving zone, and we can see at least one car up ahead has a penalty and he serves his, and then another one, so that promotes us up into 5th place as we head down into the hairpin. But 3 cars end up out wide there. We just about managed to avoid Boo Boo Racing, and we have made it up into 2nd place, so an absolute dream start for us on this first lap. And you know, this is a race where I didn't really feel like I've got the race pace, so being able to get up into 2nd place at the start of the race is a absolutely fantastic opportunity, and hopefully we can score some good points here. So we've got the Subaru up ahead, the WRX of the Spaniard, and we're already out of the slipstream range, so he's just over a second ahead, and we need to see if we can start to gain a little bit of time on him, but also be aware that we need to save our tyres at this point. So my main thought process at this stage in the race was look after the tyres, because at this point I wasn't sure which strategy I wanted to take. It very much depended on what the other cars decided to do around me as to what I was going to do, and you'll see later on that that indecision didn't work out too well for me. So as we drive around on lap 2 then, you can see Boo Boo Racing behind is quite close, putting the pressure on, but I do believe he's got a penalty to serve, so once again we'll see as we head around the tricky right hand blind corner and looking in the mirrors, and we can see yes, it does slow down. So that's great news for us. We've now got a little bit of a gap to the car behind, and we just need to keep it clean, really. Keep it clean, try to put in some good laps, not lose out too much to the car ahead. It's a very difficult circuit to overtake on, is Barcelona. Despite it being a Grand Prix track and we're in Group 3 machinery, it is very difficult to follow close enough to make a move, and really the only two places that you tend to be able to make a move are at the end of the start finish straight, but of course you need to make sure you've got a good exit through the tricky chicane, which can definitely be difficult in a higher tyre wear race. If the car in front has a bit of a moment, you can have a good opportunity, but other than that, it can be difficult unless you're following really closely. And then the other place is going down into the hairpin, but again you need to be pretty close to the car in front, and you also need reasonably fresh tyres or fresher tyres so that you can take enough speed through the right hander just beforehand. So it's not the easiest track to pass on, especially if you're lapping quite similar to the car in front. So on to lap 5 then, skipping to the end of lap 5, and you can see we're heading down towards the pit entry for the start of the pit window. So we're going to do the exact opposite of the car in front, and he decides to pit, so we will drive around the final corner to take to lap 6 and going for the alternate strategy, as Bottas so often asks Mercedes to do this year in Formula 1, but every time they put the same tyres as Lewis on. So we're going to try and do something a little bit different to the Subaru to try and leapfrog him and get ahead. So the best course of action now is to switch onto the medium tyres and try to hold out until the end of the race. We will be losing around a second to a second half, possibly even more, to the cars on fresher rubber who pitted on the end of lap 5, which was the car ahead and car up behind in 3rd place as well. So he does have a potential to get the undercut on us, but our strategy should help us with that. But we've put on the soft tyres again, so a big mistake for us. We meant to switch over to the mediums as we decided to go for the one-stop strategy, but we have put the soft tyres on. We've got a bit too trigger happy with the X button. We've put the soft tyres on again. So, and to make matters worse, Mahata has successfully undercut us and moved up into 2nd place there. So very disappointing, and we've gone from a position where we could potentially win this race to, you know, possibly struggling to be on the podium at this rate. So yeah, stuck behind Mahata. We do have fresher tyres of course, so we need to try and get past as quickly as we can as we skip forwards onto lap 9. And you can see we're pretty close, not close enough to make a move into turn 1, but you can see Mahata's tyres are clearly starting to go off a little bit here. We can take a lot more speed through these long corners, which is a sign that his tyre wear is much higher than us. But he's really slowing us down, so this is costing our race quite a lot. We're now over 4 seconds behind the lead car, and it's looking more and more unlikely that we won't be able to challenge for that 1st place, especially having to pit again towards the end of the race. There are a couple of cars behind as well who are also on the one-stop strategy, as we make a small error into the awkward left-hand corner there. So we really need to get past Mahata as quick as we can and get a move on, otherwise the one-stoppers will have a chance of leapfrogging us once we make our pit stop. So it's clearly very frustrating being behind a slower car. You need to make sure you keep a cool head, don't start driving too aggressively, because that can just end up costing you more in the long run. and we still need to make our tyres last. So well, really on a two-stop strategy, you should be pitting lap 5 and then again on lap 10 and 3 laps on the medium. But we are going to go until probably lap 12, just push it out as long as we can and do 1 lap on the medium. I think that's probably the best damage limitation strategy at this point. We're in the slipstream for Mahata, side by side almost, but he brakes quite late, so we couldn't quite get alongside him into turn 1. But he's clearly struggling as he gets very sideways there, so there's going to be an opportunity on this lap, I'm sure, trying to get as close as we can around the long right hand corner, but unable to line anything up here. And again, you can really see the difference with the lines we're taking through the corners. I'm getting much better turning and being able to get on the throttle earlier as well on the exits. We'll have to go in a little bit defensive there, I'm not really too sure why. But very, very crucial that we can get a good exit from the fast right-hander and look to make a move down into the hairpin. As we get a good turn in, Mahata does go wide, and that gives us a run. We're going to have to brake quite late, but we get alongside, he gives us room, but turns in on us a little bit. There's a little bit of contact, and you can see the radar, we're side by side, but again he's turned in on me there. I'm not sure he's seen me really. We were definitely side by side in the radar, so a little bit of unnecessary contact, but we get the move done around the outside eventually and up into second place, so a little bit of clear air, and we really need to start pushing on now if we want to maintain a reasonable finish position in this race. You can see there 1:45.7, so that's probably over a second slower than we would have wanted on that lap if we'd been in clean air, so very frustrating. Skipping forward then on to the end of lap 12 as we head down through the final chicane. The car behind was the Subaru, who pitted on lap 10, now just a second behind. And we head into the pits to take the medium tyres that we should have put on earlier on in the race. So you can see there we would have been in first place with 1 lap to go had we put these mediums on earlier. But as we come out of the pits, you can see second and third place have also got past us. So they were the 2 drivers also originally on a one-stop strategy, and it's worked for them. Unfortunately, where we put the wrong tyres on and had to do that extra pit stop, we are now down into 4th place on this last lap. So very, very frustrating. Like I said, we would have been in first place with 1 lap to go and just had to nurse the tyres home and try to defend that P1. Unfortunately, we are down in 4th place, and we'll come across the line to finish in 4th because of that major cock-up from the strategy team, aka me. But not too bad a race really overall. If you'd said to me before I would get a 4th place and score 263 points, I would have taken it. So very, very pleased with the points I've scored, but disappointed that we couldn't get the victory. So on to the next race then, and we are at Interlagos in Brazil for the next round of the Manufacturers Cup. It's a Group 4 race, so of course we are in the Porsche Cayman for this one, and we're qualified in 2nd place. So we've had a great qualifying, especially seeing as we haven't practiced this race an awful lot. We normally get 1 or 2 practice races in with other races that we do, but this one we haven't practiced at all, so very pleased with the P2. And it's a 15-lap race on the racing hard tyres, and the tyre wear and fuel usage are both quite high, so it's either going to be a no-stop or a one-stop race. If you want to do it as a no-stop race, you're going to have to save quite a bit of fuel. So fortunately, the Cayman is very, very good at its fuel usage, so we should be in a good position. So starting P2, I think the best strategy we can employ is to use a bit of fuel early on, try to build a bit of a gap to the cars behind, and then settle down into a fuel saving mode and just basically drive around until the end of the race without any drama. So that's the plan. Of course, plans don't normally go to plan, but we'll see. Again, tyre wear shouldn't really be an issue in the Porsche. It's very, very kind to its tyres, so out of all the Group 4 cars, it's one of the ones you can run on the tyres the longest, so that shouldn't be a problem at all. Fuel shouldn't be too much of an issue, so this should be a quite easy, breeze in the park result, possibly a podium finish for us. So it's a rolling start for this one, so no need to worry about traction control, but we do want to stick it into a lean fuel mode just before the start of the race, before putting it back into fuel mix 1 once the race gets underway. Heading down into turn 1 for the first time then, and we are behind the Hyundai of the Frenchman there, and we get a bit out of shape going through turn 2, and I realised it's my brake balance, so quick change. We realised that we've got 4 to the rear, no idea why. I must have done that by accident at some point during the warm-up or qualifying or something, I'm not too sure, but right, that's set down to 2 as it should be now. So what we want to do is try to stick to the car in front. If we can maintain the gap to less than 0.8, we'll be in the slipstream range, and that will help us save a little bit of fuel as well. So turning down into fuel mix 2 through the twisty section of the lap, you don't lose too much time going into a leaner fuel mix through here, so that should help to save a little bit of fuel. And having not done a practice run in this race before, I thought that the Porsche would probably be okay to, you know, rev it out a little bit at the start of the race. I kind of had a bit of blind faith that it was going to be very good for the fuel usage, which I will find out later that might not be the case. So anyway, as we've come up the hill then to go on to lap 2, you can see I've lost a lot of time to the car in front. The Porsche is very, very slow in a straight line, and even more so going up a hill. So the Citroen GT there of Eddie goes up the inside. I don't want to battle too much. If anything, having another car that I can try to tag on to and staying within their slipstream range is probably the best thing I can do for fuel saving at this point in the race. So hopefully that's what we can do. We obviously lost the slipstream to the car in front going up the hill on lap 1, so we need to see if we can try to hold on to the Citroen as we head up the hill for the second time on this lap. The Porsche is very, very good through this twisty section. It's got such great turning. You can take a lot of curb here as well, and yeah, like I said, the Porsche is very, very good through here. Doesn't want to understeer at all. You can get on the power nice and early, and you can just be reasonably quick without having to push too hard through there. You know, definitely can lower down into fuel mix 3, 4 and not lose too much time in the Porsche. But again, this is the place where we lose so much time going up the hill, and you can just see the cars in front pulling away, and it's difficult for us to stay in the slipstream when we lose so much time on one section of the lap. We really have to sort of push out of turn 1 for the rest of the lap to make sure that we stay within that slipstream range. I'm going to jump forwards here then onto lap 8, halfway around lap 8, so halfway through the race, and you can see we've used more than half our fuel. There's 7.5 laps left to go, and we've only got 5.3 laps left of fuel remaining, so we're going to need to save our fuel. I do obviously have confidence in the Porsche. I know it is good on fuel usage, and I still think at this stage that will be okay, and I'll be able to save it at the end of the race. You can see we haven't lost too much time to the first 2 cars. We're still within 3 seconds of the car in front, sorry, the car in first place, and we've built up a gap of nearly 4 seconds to fourth place. So we're looking good for a podium finish, and there's still a chance, of course, that first or second might need to hit for fuel later in the race. They may be on a one stop, or they may run out of fuel at the end of the race as well. So it's important that we stay close to them so we can capitalise on any of that, but we do have a decent gap behind. So I'm going to jump forward again onto lap 13 here, and it was kind of about now that I realised I completely ballsed up my maths. So you can see down at the bottom I've got 1.6 laps of fuel remaining, but we have 3 laps left to do. Obviously we're on lap 13, but we've got to finish lap 13, then we've got lap 14 and lap 15. So while the race has been going on, I've obviously done the maths in my head at some point and got it completely wrong. And as we cross the line to start lap 14, so the penultimate lap here, we've only got 1 lap of fuel remaining. So I've got it completely wrong, and we're going to have to make 1 lap of fuel last 2 laps somehow. So we're going to have to go down into fuel mix 6. I've already lost a load of time to the 2 cars in front now. We've dropped 10 seconds back, where I've just had to start fuel saving quite drastically now. And there's nothing we can do to defend. Carry WRX goes straight past. We can't do anything. We can't even stay in slipstream range for longer than 10 seconds because we're going so slow in a straight line. And we jump around now to the end of lap 14. You can see we've got 2 cars behind us who are just going to breeze past us up the hill. Absolutely nothing we can do. We're going to try and jump in the slipstream to get a bit of a tow down the start finish straight if we can. Again, after a couple of seconds we're already out of their slipstream range, but we have successfully managed to make half a lap of fuel last that 1 lap. So as we head on to our final lap, we'll need to do another lap of the same if we can. We've dropped down from the 1 minute 40s to the 1 minute 44.9, so nearly the 1 minute 45, so nearly 5 seconds a lap we're losing, and we are currently 4.2 seconds ahead of the car behind. So it's going to be very, very close as to whether A, we finish this race, and B, whether or not we hold on to the position we're currently in. But you can see that time is dropping constantly all the time. We're now 20 seconds behind the leader. That's how slow we're going at this point. I feel a bit like Lewis Hamilton in the race at Silverstone when he had a puncture, except we weren't in the lead and we're definitely not going to win this one. We might still be able to hang on for a decent amount of points though, if we can just make it around to the end of the lap. So last couple of turns here then, and we can see just 2 seconds to the car behind. It's really, really going to be close. We're now on 0.2 laps of fuel remaining. Normally you want to be coming out of the final corner with at least maybe 0.3 laps of fuel remaining. So round the final corner then, and we can see there's 4, 5, 6, 7 cars in our mirror, and we just need to get across the line. We need to somehow just make it to the line without running out of fuel as the Viper goes past. And there it is, we've run out of fuel, but we cross the line and hold on to 7th place. So somehow we've held on to 7th place. I don't know how we managed to make those last 2 laps work with 1 lap of fuel, but we've earned 223 points there, so it's actually not a bad points haul. But on the terrible disappointment of not scoring a podium at all this week, it's time to end the video. So thanks a lot for watching, and I will see you again soon.